Okay, we have Kevin Jeong on the podcast today. And I worked with Kevin for how many years did we work? 2, 3?
Roughly 2.
Roughly 2.
Going to my third.
Going into 3 years together.
Yeah.
How old were you when you started working? When we started working together?
20 at the time. 2019.
20. You're 23 now.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we did door-to-door sales together. So your first sales season with us, how much did you make?
I only did about 20,000 in take home.
Okay. So 20, let's say 20K in take home in one summer. Pretty decent summer job, but
yeah.
And then so the next summer, what was your take home?
About 105.
Okay. So 4 or 5X jump in take home pay.
Yeah.
Like 3X ish jump in revenue production, right? So in like total sales.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay. So you go from making $20,000 to making $102,000, you said?
Yeah.
Ish?
Around that mark. Yeah.
What was the sales principle, if you were to just dial me into like one sales principle that made a difference for you or that moved the needle the most, what would that be?
I would say even with the sales principle, there were certain things that I did, but I think the biggest change was probably the emotional state.
Okay.
And so
okay, let's lump that into it. So you've got like in the confidence code, we have, or the foundations modules as like it would have been known at Moxie. You basically have like your character and then you have your mind, and then it's like the skills of mind is skills as well, but it's like who you're becoming, the most important things about you. Then your like what's happening during your performance that's not the interactions with the customer necessarily. So like there's the technique and finesse of talking with the customer.
Yeah.
But then there's also like the performance psychology of the salesmen themselves, right? So when you say what did you say, mindset or
like managing the state.
State. Okay. And that would be like here in the mind. So because skills is like what's your body language look like? What are your paraverbals look like, or like the sound and the inflections of your voice? Prosody is what this is also called.
Yeah.
And then what are the actual words themselves that you're saying to customers?
Yeah.
But you're saying that like the biggest difference for you was something in the mindset in your state management.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say studying the sales script down to a T, like understanding like tonalities and paraverbals, like these do matter a lot, right? So these will make a huge difference in like how a customer is going to like perceive you, like the first impression. Okay. And first impressions last and they matter. And also like body language, obviously it's going to be better because when you've done something like 1,000 times, it becomes secondhand nature. Right. And then the words, I would say the words did make a difference. Like if you take the script from like my first year to second year, there is going to be some variation in it, but I wouldn't say the words were like the biggest thing that moved the needle from like a 70K summer to like 210K summer. Yeah. Yeah. And so it all starts with, sorry, you were. No, go ahead. Yeah, that makes sense. So you're basically saying like, okay, you practicing the principles of body language helped quite a bit to go from making 20,000 to 100 grand in the course of like less than a year, which is crazy at 21 years old. Right. Yeah. And your paraverbals. So like how your voice sounds to a customer, your first impressions to that customer, those are important. Your words really didn't change a ton between 20,000 summer and 100,000 summer. No, but it is something that's like kind of unrelated to that. Your script wasn't that different. It really wasn't. Okay. If you break it down, there's zeros too that you could back on, but your recordings of we got a lot of those. But I'm the firmest believer that these skill sets, they're a byproduct of the things that actually make up what it affects, like what influences like the skills itself. Okay. And so there's only so much anyone can manage a skill and they can get to a proficient level. But where does it actually come from? Like where does the confidence, where does like the actual, like when you're actually confident and you're relaxed, what does it actually come from? Okay. And that comes, I believe, from like what your mindset is like, what kind of paradigm do you have going to like the summer, like the neighborhood, like just about yourself and like how much belief you have. Well, so describe for me what you mean by paradigm. Because you're saying paradigm makes a huge difference in just the approach of the sales season itself, of your performance, and that your body language, how you sound, your words they're unimportant compared to the approach to these things. And like you something about you being able to make you relaxed. What is that? What's paradigm? It's like the lens that you view the world. Okay. And so this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey actually talks about this a lot, but the very first habit that he talks about is the aspect of like being proactive. And so,
dude, you read 7 Habits.
7 Habits.
It's like, no wonder. It's a core part of the program, right? Like, still is.
What's the secret sauce? It's this book.
Yeah, it's this book. Yeah.
No wonder it's made out of
It's like, well, where does this tell me what to say?
Yeah, right.
How do I? Yeah, it's like, no, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say anything.
Yeah,
related to just talking to customers.
Yeah, but he taught the aspect of like you can be in control. So going off the aspects of like what it really takes to become a good salesman, I've had 2 different points in my journey where I was able to just go out there and sell, but then I've had a new experience of going on to my second summer and just really like diving deep down into like the principle of like what takes a really good person and a good salesman to go out there and perform really high. And I wouldn't have been able to go from like a 70K summer to like a 210K summer, like just tripling my revenue like that without the help of like everything that I learned from like Hayden's modules, his trainings, every like ounce of energy that he put into like making this great. And there were countless nights. It took so much time, probably a lot of Friday nights to like go out there and really understand this. But this is what really like helped me is like just taking the time down, having someone who has performed sales at a really high level and make this kind of training. And so if this training for me, like, I encouraged everyone to go like get this because it's going to help them out and really increase their revenue. If you want to see anything close to this, but like if it's even half as good as what it's been for me as for you, your only regret is not having run into it sooner, like 3 years ago. So get it while it's still $457. Great training will make you a lot more money. So it's a good investment. See it that way.
You have your circle of influence and your circle of control. And Correct. Your mistake your first summer when you only made 20 grand versus when you made 100 grand was that you kind of like, you put things that you were in control of, like your market, your area, the type of person that you're selling to. You like, even though you were in control of them, or you realize that later, you put those variables into your circle of influence and that they were like acting on you instead of you being the driver in the driver's seat, deciding what your outcomes were.
Correct.
So, and then what is this? What did you write here?
I put mediocre.
Okay. So everything that contributed to mediocre performance was because you put things you were actually in control of into your circle of influence instead. So you let them influence you rather than you being in control of them.
Correct.
Okay.
And so one of the biggest things that I let control me was area, because growing up, I guess one of my biggest limiting beliefs I'd love to share is, I guess, rich hood. Okay. I used to have the worst like limiting belief about rich hood.
Being able to sell to wealthy people.
And part of it that I realized, one of my managers did a great training on this, but it's actually because of like how you grew up. And so I wasn't
like totally your own psychology influences how you just project your own views of other people onto
exactly
them.
But most people don't realize it.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize it too, but then looking back, I realized when growing up in like a middle class but lower class at first, my family eventually situation got better over the years, but we were never at a point where you would look at like those like $2 million homes where it's like stucco paneling. Looking at that, it was so intimidating. Like it's like my first rich hood. And so I thought, okay, I'm never able to sell to wealthy people. Like there's just something about them. They're so quick. They don't let me talk. They don't let me do any. I mean, I could go on about like the limiting beliefs that I had, but
yeah,
it was just because of the paradigm that I had that didn't let me realize that it's actually not the issue of wealthy people. It's just the way I viewed it. And so it's
paradigm, right? The lens that you were viewing wealthy people through was the thing keeping you selling to wealthy people.
Exactly. But it's not just wealthy people though. You can take any kind of group, right?
Oh yeah.
Wealthy, Black, Asian, like whether it's race, ethnicity, like wealthhood, the aspect of
age, right? It's like how many sales reps are like, I don't like selling to like old people is kind of the biggest one, but some people love selling to old people. Why? Because
they're the best.
They just like really love their grandparents or something, and they had a great time in their first area where there was just it was like a retirement community or something. Yeah. And then they're like, yeah, just put me in the old hood all day long.
And I'll just smile all day and they'll just listen to me.
Yeah. But like there is no difference between capabilities of a salesperson to be able to sell to that demographic, to older people or wealthier people. Yeah. It's literally how they view it and the beliefs that they start to form because of their experiences that all start with their paradigm.
And I think that's like one thing is also if you're just basing beliefs off of past experience, that's not being principle centered.
Ooh, that's good, dude. Say that again.
Like when you're basing the beliefs off of past experience, that's not being principle centered.
Why?
Because the principle itself doesn't change over time.
Oh, dude, that's so good. And that's so fantastic.
Yeah. The aspects of these people, they're very...
Did you just waiting to say that one, huh?
Yeah. Just woke up,
what made you realize that? So what made you realize that if you default to your beliefs because they're based on your past experiences, that you're fundamentally not living a principle-centered life. What made you realize that?
Well, a principle itself, like, what is that? That's something that doesn't change over time. It's timeless.
Yeah.
So whether it was like 5,000 years ago or like 5,000 now or 5,000 years in the future, it always stays the same.
Yeah.
It's like an anchor that you can set yourself on in like a world where there's always change. There's always going to be change in like the world itself, the wealth, like the patterns, the politics.
Yeah.
One thing that's never changed, and you can observe it if you really break it down, is a principle itself.
Yeah.
And so there's very like real factors about like these certain factors that people let influence them. There's real things you have to acknowledge about it too. So like one thing I realized is when you sell to wealthy people, it's a different way of selling, but you're still having to take them through the roadmap, which is like, if you think of the roadmap, that's a principle because it's with human psychology.
Well, at least the one we built, right, was like based off of how people make real decisions.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if your sales process maps accurately to the way any rational person would make a decision, then you can count on that being based on true principles, which will always get you the same result every time as long as you check the correct boxes, right?
Yeah.
And there's also this empathy aspect too of like the principle of reciprocity, where like I understand that you make decisions in the same way that I do. So if I can empathize with the way you make decisions and then help you see how a decision I would like you to make is maybe better for you, or I'm willing to discover that with you.
Yeah.
We're like on the train tracks of these true principles together rather than a sales system that doesn't operate according to true principles. And it's just about manipulation, which has no reciprocity.
Yeah.
So me wanting you to do something makes you not want to do it. Actually, that's not reciprocal, right?
Exactly. But the dangerous part of that is like people find success without like, I mean, if you take the core values of like, let's say integrity, which is the program that we're building, integrity, gratitude.
Okay.
And then keeping commitments. This is like keeping your word. And then the aspect of like hard work. So like your work ethic.
Yep.
And then the actual, like, this is the very last part. And this is obviously an important part, but not the only one, is like the sales skills aspect.
Yep.
You can make a lot of money, be very successful in not just this job, but like many jobs just by getting these three down. Because,
dude, you want to know what I'm discovering right now is like
people
you can suck at these and still make money. And so this feature, this external, I don't know what it is. It's like psychosis of people like trying to just flaunt that their money makes them like somehow a successful person. It's like you can really suck at keeping commitments, not showing up for people in your life. You don't have to work that hard. You can just have a good perception and be reasonably skilled at making people think you're one thing. And then you can, as long as you can at least sell yourself or something to someone reasonably and they don't have to ever know your intentions, you can make money.
Yeah. You've heard of like course sellers that sell just hopes and dreams. Like that's
just
one aspect.
Just kidding.
Of
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but obviously what you have is real value. But like people are soft. So if you just learn how to keep a commitment, like even a small one, and you just can outwork about 80-90% of people around you, which is really, really easy.
It's really easy.
You can make a lot of money, but like none of that really matters because it becomes really dangerous where if you don't have a foundation of like actual morals, like things that don't change over time, like honesty, just being grateful and like serving others, then you lay a very dangerous foundation for like becoming a person that is quite evil. It's like the devil.
Yeah. So yes, and I mean, we're kind of being a bit facetious when we say it's easy to still make money by sucking at these kind of three: keeping commitments, hard work, and sales skills.
Yeah.
But really, if you look at it over the long term, there is no sustainable way to build wealth or legacy in any form or fashion you would want without aligning your life with real, true principles in human relationships. So integrity and gratitude, let alone like aligning your own soul to those things and not experiencing the anxiety of living opposite of them. Right.
I mean, look at anyone that's accrued wealth to a really big level. Like at some point they're going to get caught. Like, and the people that are really
if they don't have integrity or some version of like a gratitude, that honesty, that attracts, reciprocal relationships or, business dealings or like, there's a lot that could go into this, but I'm mostly thinking about like, what if you're a farmer and you own land and your family legacy lasts for hundreds and hundreds of years based off of a farm that you own, and it's because of the good relationships and you've built with people around you, and all you ever have is handshake deals. Yeah. Well, if you only have handshake deals and you don't have like these contracts that can enforce your way, and you leverage all of the things that you have that people don't have against them, like the only way to have something sustainable over a very long period of time is to be honorable and trustworthy. And without being trustworthy yourself, you can't ever build something that is you can put real trust in.
Because it's just human nature too. Humans gravitate toward things that make them feel heard and acknowledged. And so like these things can produce things that like the worldly things that can make someone happy enough. But like when it comes down to all said and done, they want to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. That's just human nature. And so you work against that principle when you're only working toward things that focus on things of the world. Good, and like the dangerous part is like people that have this
sales skills or the ability to persuade at a high level.
Yeah, they can hide that for much longer. But how much longer, right? That's the question.
Yeah. And the better someone is at hiding their lack of integrity through manipulation or through sales skills. Because manipulation is actually neither good nor bad. Like I can manipulate this piece of paper. That doesn't mean that it's bad for me to do so. If I'm throwing it away, I manipulate it to be smaller to like make it more efficient or whatever.
Yeah.
If someone is good at manipulating, but goes against true principles, hides their intentions that are inherently maybe selfish or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Then the longer they hide their intentions and work against true principles, the more people they also hurt. Right?
Yeah. That's why it becomes a very dangerous thing whenever.
Yeah. Because it's not just you that's affected.
Yeah.
It's everyone else.
But that's the problem of the world is there's people out there that don't have this that get rewarded for, and some people become very wealthy by doing it. Like there's a lot of different examples that go into it. But it's like the principle of sales too is like there's just human psychology that you can't escape around, and no amount of like charisma could do it. So like if I'm in a point like in a sales process where like I don't have trust with someone, it's going to be very hard for me to actually convince them to make a good buying decision. That's like in their best interest without establishing something like a little bit of harmony and trust. Yeah.
That's like how much of the confidence code have you gone through? You only got it yesterday.
I've done like one module so far.
Which one did you do?
It was the one about the tonalities.
Oh, so it's the actual tonal charisma one.
Like the cop teacher and like the...
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff.
So that's the first... So I have it even more dialed into like checkpoints that even now make more sense. Like trust is the first checkpoint. Trust, rapport.
Yeah.
So trust, rapport, intrigue, understanding, and then commitment. Trust is like you can't even move on to having rapport with someone if they don't initially trust you or you know, where they're willing to listen to you. Rapport is like if I have rapport with you, you're going to turn over to me the ability to influence you, right? And then as soon as I have that rapport, now I can intrigue you about something in the future based on my product, good, or service. So these intrigue lines, you'll recognize this one where it's like, listen, based on everything you said, you're gonna love this.
I think this might be really good.
I think this is gonna be a really good fit for you. Yeah. Based on everything that you just said, I think this could be a really good fit for you.
Yeah.
And then understanding is the logical commitment and or the understanding is the logical certainty and commitment is emotional certainty because no one's going to commit unless they are emotionally and logically certain.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let me just let's zoom out for a second because I think I derailed us a tiny bit here. Yeah. You said that, remind me what you said about principles.
So the principle ties in with everything itself where it doesn't change and you can apply it to the world of sales because, there's things about like human psychology that you can't shortcut.
Yeah.
And so the aspect of like, if you have like a straight line, Jordan Belfort talks about this a lot.
Yep.
And we're gonna obviously disregard all the stuff that he's done. But as far as that, but
okay, what's funny though is like we can disregard for our purposes with understanding persuasion and human psychology. You can in fact disregard the motives of someone because they have nothing to do with motives. Like my ability to persuade you right now has nothing to do with my motives. Yeah. Like I will have motives for doing it, but as far as you're concerned, those don't need to be factored in order for you to make a decision as long as I'm able to lead you through the checkpoints that one would need to meet in order to make a decision.
Exactly. It's like making sure that certainty is there. And so following like the principle, like if we have a straight line of us taking the customer through like the roadmap, there's certain like, and I don't like to consider them checkboxes because sometimes doing something, it doesn't always work in the first go. Because sometimes if you haven't mastered the principle, you can't just expect one thing to be checked off and then hope that the butterflies just click and the stars all align.
And like scripts usually work this way, right? Where it's like first I say this, then I say that, then I do this, then I do that. You'll hear me say this in the confidence code a lot, where like instead of checking boxes, you want to take a customer through checkpoints. And if the customer is not with you, you haven't gone through the checkpoint.
Yeah. And it makes no sense. Like if you take it from a principle centered standpoint, it is not ethical to make someone buy when they don't realize that it's in their best interest. Like we could realize all day, but unless that person does, then you're just breaking a huge aspect of communication where it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And that's like the principle itself. Like that doesn't change over time too, but.
Correct. And the type of customer that would make a decision without having trust with you is very likely a customer that's fickle enough to not maintain their customership with you. They're not going to stay with your product or service for very long if they are willing to make decisions without real trust, or if they're kind of intoxicated by the salesman's personality or something like that, right?
Yeah, because I mean, if they buy because of you, like that's all great, but then come like an issue, they don't understand like why the service actually makes sense to them.
Yeah,
so they're like, well, I only bought from Adam because I like Adam, but I don't know why this is actually like working or why it doesn't. And then they run into like the smallest kind of issue, like obstacle or hurdle. That's where they cancel. So,
right.
That's why this is important. So like if I'm taking a customer through a roadmap, there's certain checkpoints instead of like a checkbox that I have to take him through.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, we could even take like trust, which is the aspect of like trust, right? So instead of like viewing like a checkpoint, you view like, checkbox, you view like a checkpoint. And so unless I have trust with this person, I can't take him to the next stage of like intel gathering, right? So I can't ask him credible questions.
For me, that's rapport.
And then unless
I don't remember what Belfort calls. I know he calls this intel gathering, but I don't remember if he has a name for this section.
Fact finding, maybe.
Fact finding, intel gathering. Yeah. But it's the same idea. It's like I can't really serve you unless I know what you need. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I can only throw something, but you're not going to know why it makes sense to you, even though I could try and tell you that.
Right.
Unless you internalize it, you're not going to see why.
Yeah, and otherwise, like I am just checking a box and hoping that you understood. Right.
Or if it's like sexy enough, it just comes up, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like the presentation number 1 where we talk about like this is delivering the logical case, where you explain why based on what, hopefully if you did the checkpoints correctly, you understand like, well, first I'm in harmony. So whatever they told me of like the credible value set is credible enough. So then I can properly give a tailored value set to them that makes sense and fits their needs.
Okay.
And then you have the close. And so this is going like in order. And then the whole principle here is like, you can't move on in a way that produces results over a long enough period of time if you don't follow these like checkpoints in order. It's like trying to take a shortcut and like hijack, and it could work on some people, but like we said, it's not going to be your ideal customer.
And like almost more importantly, you as the salesman will never actually know where the customer is if you don't understand what checkpoints you're taking them through. So like I could be extremely unconsciously competent in my ability to persuade you, which on any given day, let's just say I'm not feeling it today and like I feel off. If I don't have the ability to gauge where you're at and what I'm doing that makes you, react a certain way, thereby knowing what checkpoints I'm supposed to go through, I can never really be the best salesman I could possibly be, and let alone like you're a manager, right? So how are you supposed to externalize your skill set and teach it to somebody in a proficient way where I can predict that they will get the same results? Because if these are true principles, human psychology means people make the decisions the same way if they're rational. If they're not dealing with psychosis, which a lot of us seem to be dealing with these days.
Yeah.
If they're
give or take.
a little bit, a little psychosis is fine. A lot not. You're not going to be on this roadmap. If I can't externalize it, I'm never going to be proficient at teaching it. And so I'm highlighting the importance of understanding where the customer is and being able to gauge that. And that it's not just about checking these boxes. It is actually about bringing the customer through these psychological checkpoints.
Yeah.
And knowing whether or not, well, I guess it's built in, right? Whether it's good for them.
And that's actually the big difference between like summer number 1 and summer number 2 is that I was a lot better at this.
At following the principles of human decision making and your ability to persuade.
Exactly. And I think there's a huge aspect of selfishness that also went away, because instead of like focusing on my own emotions too, like let's put a huge gap here that says emotions, right?
That was the bridge you had to cross, was the bridge of your own emotions. It sounds like a parable or something.
It's probably stuck somewhere in the Bible, but going up here, right? Going and then learning how to manage it well, so you go back down, right? It's a terrible analogy, but
you don't have like a Korean family tradition. It's like some like stupid American fortune cookie version of this like this parable.
Dude,
I just picture like Asian families just with like sayings they say to their kids that are like truisms, you know, that you can just pass down for generations. Is this true?
Yeah, no, they say
Straight up
things like idioms. Is that the word they call
I
it?
think
Like,
so. I don't know. I
they'll
didn't
say-
finish school, dude.
But like the native tongue, like, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, but the native tongue where they go about it, I'd have to like ask him like, hey, what does it actually mean? Like, what's the principle behind it? Because like my Korean's only so much proficient to where I can have a conversation, but
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
going to my second summer, the emotional, like just not being selfish and understanding like what I feel and what I do doesn't matter because I think we all get caught up in like our own life and we think that our life circumstances are whatever we're going through, the family problems we have at home. That's a reason for somehow the customer just having to justify buying from us.
That's
And I was
so funny.
like going to my first summer, I was like, oh, if I'm going through something hard, they need to just buy from me because like I'm going through something hard. Like people should help each other out. And I realized that's so much not the case because
No one cares about you, right?
it's
like,
business though.
No,
right?
and actually, like, no one truly cares at all about you outside of their own problems.
Exactly. But I didn't really internalize that principle until I realized that that's not really what sales is about.
Yes.
You're going to their door. The strict like nature of that relationship is transactional. Like, could there be rapport? Could there be like harmony and friendship? Yes. But the pure nature of that transaction is transactional. And so it's about how can I show up in my best state? Like, what are things that I can control, right? This brings it back to here. Like, what are things that I can control? And I can control how like the best state I can show up in. I can control how charismatic I am, obviously with the intentions of like integrity and like gratitude, right? I can control like how happy I show up at the door. And so the more I started to do that, it's you take away the selfishness aspect because you stop thinking about yourself. You start thinking about like how can I actually best serve the person?
Yeah.
And like I can't serve the person if they're not even willing to trust me.
Yeah.
And so it's a completely whole different viewpoint about this. But like I have to realize if I want to really take the person into like making a good buying decision, one thing I know that's best in their best interest, I have to take him through these roadblocks.
Yep.
Right. In a way that's principle centered, right? We're not going to manipulate people.
Right.
We're going to use sales skills to show why something is in their best interest.
Yeah.
So that was a huge shift going.
That's fantastic. And this brings us back to the point where I started to derail us a bit, which was like, you're saying that if you were to just operate, so your 20,000 take home earnings summer.
Yeah.
That's just crazy to think of that. Like that's a phenomenal summer job, but compared to everyone else's expectations. Right?
Yeah.
So you made 20,000 your first summer, but by all standards, mediocre. At least in our program at the time, very mediocre. Your past self was mediocre. I'm not judging your current self, Kevin.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
In different times, right?
Different times. No, your worth has nothing to do with how well you sell.
Yeah.
So the big shift that happened for you was like this realization that if I base my future performance off of my past beliefs, which may or may not be real, I'm not living a principle-centered life, really. Well, I guess where I derailed us was that you said that comment. It's like if anyone bases how they live off of their belief systems and isn't evaluating like what are the principles at play, those beliefs are based on past experiences, which may or may not have been, value based according to true principles or something.
Well, you got to ask yourself, was that past self, like the things that I did, was it all centered around principles?
Yep.
And 99% of the time it's not. Because if we really like take a deep down of like who we are, until we like pursue these principles on an active basis, right? Keeping commitments, we're not really principle centered.
Yeah.
Because we're emotional, we're not proactive. We don't really plan well. So we're really bad with time management. We don't begin with like some end in mind of like where we want to be, the kind of person we want to become. And so a lot of things, we just let that affect us at a time. So,
yeah.
But then we start to take those things that happen to us and we try to analyze it and say, no, that's like, this is the belief that it should be. This is universal when it's really not. And so you fall into this trap of forming this, and it's worse if you pass it on to other people too.
Yeah. Well, and you can't help but pass it on to other people because you need other people to validate what you believe, right? So if I believe that it's really hard to sell to Korean families, like you're from a Korean family, if I believe that that's impossible, I can't just be the only person that has that belief. I have to make sure that I validate that, self-validate it usually through convincing other people that it's also a limiting belief, right?
Or people that have had similar experiences too with that. Yes.
And so you either congregate with those people or you convince others. Did you ever hear me give this training on there's the, I mean, it's like Covey talks about it right here. There's the maturity. So Covey has this the maturity continuum and then the immaturity continuum, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear me give that training on like how you graduate from you're dependent on everyone to now you're independent to interdependent?
I do remember.
So that's what you're referring to here, right? Is like your big leap from making 20,000 to 100,000, which is just a scoreboard for a lot of the stuff that happened deep down.
Yeah.
Was graduating from it's all about me. I expect people to respond based on what's happening in my life to I am proactively obsessed with giving value to the customers and I'm deploying skills that align themselves with the principles of decision making so that I'm helping customers make decisions that are in their best interest.
Yep. And then you learn to operate like a certain skill set, and it's a different one than you have to learn, and it takes a lot of time, which that's okay because if that's something that you want to graduate out from. So going to like second summer where I was able to fall into more like the independence because you're focused more on like the actual principle itself. You focus on actually how to serve people. And so when you have these different like demographics, like let's take the race, for example, right, in an area, or even like wealth levels, there are certain patterns about different wealth levels. Like when you're in a rich hood versus middle class hood versus like a poor hood, there's certain aspects about it that do make it unique. But we're like, what separates really from like the high performers to like your average rep or even like just the underperforming rep is like what they do based on like what they pick up from that. And so the high performer, right? And I don't like to consider myself like the top performer for my second summer, but like what shifted from like my first to second.
It's a pretty big gap, dude. Yeah.
Tripling like the revenue was that when I saw certain aspects about like a neighborhood, I would actually use that to figure out how to sell that group better. So it's like, I still have to follow the roadmap. Like whether they're Black, Asian, white, I still have to have trust with them if I want to go make them make a good buying decision.
Yeah.
So
you're recognizing that cultural like variables actually play into people's decision-making process.
Correct.
But the way that those decisions are made fundamentally are the same actually.
Exactly.
Right.
And I like to put it in very like obvious like categories. Let's take something very simple that most people that haven't done sales could realize. I feel like Americans have one of the lowest buying thresholds. They're just very like consumerism, like
materialistic. Yeah.
It's a very big part of the culture. So if you just honestly make them like you enough and you show them a certain problem, how you'll solve it, they'll just buy and they don't really care about how much they pay. But what I realized from like selling to Asian people and Indian people, which I've done at a pretty high level, is that they have money. They're not poor, contrary to what most people say. They're just more careful about how they spend it.
Sure.
And so they really want to see that value into it. So whereas most people, you just get really good at this checkpoint. For
trust.
Certain ethnic group, you not only have to have this, you have to deliver on like the logical case so well.
Yeah.
And like deliver so much value before they make a buying decision. And you have to really gauge that too. Like, do they actually perceive the amount of value that I'm delivering?
Yeah, right. Totally.
That's where you become really principle centered about this because you're following.
Because you're not just like checking the box of the roadmap itself, pretending you're taking someone through it. You're like actively trying to say like, no, how much do you understand about like how valuable this is? And if you don't, then we need to circle back and like, let me revisit it so I can show you because I'm certain that this is valuable for you. But like, I'm actually more concerned that you believe that it's valuable for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I got this awesome thing. And I know it's going to be so good, but like until you realize that it's awesome, dude, I can't make you just say yes to this.
Your tonality is fantastic there, by the way. Nice.
So you have to really make sure that they perceive the value like as you want to portray it as. And until that checkpoint is secured, you can't go on to the next part of the roadmap at all. And so it's just understanding the different aspects of like each group and catering to that. And that's where you just develop the ability to like produce on command. You can go to any neighborhood, you can go to any wealth level, you can go to any house type, which I've heard things about that too.
Oh yeah. Like, did you sell where'd you sell this last year?
Just Houston.
Houston? Yeah. I mean, how many times have you changed markets? 2?
Yeah. Atlanta and Houston.
Okay. So yeah, like I would see this as I would travel the country, especially, right? It's like, well, listen, Hayden, you just don't understand. Denver's just different. Or like, listen, you don't understand. Like San Diego's different. Yeah. There's like
stucco, man.
There's always a thing that's different. Like, oh man, I didn't realize stucco is just putting pest control businesses out of business completely. It's like, there's no way that this one thing is the thing that's making it so that no one can do business here.
Man, you guys heard of mud daubers?
Yeah. Or like a different issue, right? It's like, I didn't realize that one variable is what's keeping everyone from buying around here. It's like, no, maybe you just don't actually see this for what it is, which is just a different issue, same thing. A different objection, but it is an objection. And all that means is I don't trust you yet. Or all that means is you haven't really delivered on the logical case for me yet. Why would I buy something if I don't actually see myself using it in the future? Emotional case.
Yeah. But the problem is whenever you're caught in like the own like stuff that's happening with like the circle of influence, you start to digress away from like the principle centered way of like selling, and then you focus on, well, why me? Why is this happening to me? The rain sucks out here. Which we've heard that in Atlanta before.
And you're not willing to work as hard either, right? Because it's a lot harder to work really hard and not get the results that you are self-prophesying you're not going to get. You're predicting you won't get them. It's a lot harder to go work and put value in hard work than it is to make any given variable on any given day the excuse for not winning. You know? But if you can predict your success at the level of the human psychology of people's decision-making processes, you know that you're serving them at a high level and you have the capability of doing it on command. And controlling your emotional state to do it on command, right? So it's not just knowing what they need, but it's also knowing my ability to get into the state, to on command, put myself in that emotional state.
Show up in your best state.
Dude, how much easier is it to work harder than everyone else when you can just predict your results?
Oh, it's way easier. You ever gone to a hood and think, man, this day's gonna suck?
It's been a long time, I'll say that.
So like, how well do you think you're gonna sell whenever like getting out of the car, you're already thinking about like the different things that could go wrong? Like, it's almost like it's going to manifest itself. But you take the flip side of it and you think, okay, well, there's certain things about here that I don't know, that I've never done before, but it's okay because like I'm going to follow today, like I'm going to control what I can control. I'm going to follow the aspects that I've worked over time that every top performer has done and predictively done and succeeded from. I'm going to take that and apply it today. And if it doesn't work today, it's fine. But that's the beauty about the principle, is that you do it enough times and you get the mastery out of it, you will produce results over time. And so that's why I always emphasize it's so important to follow this, because this is like the anchor that can keep you afloat when there's different changes. Because you take even like different variables too. Like I never knew how to sell rich people, which I'm back to like the rich hood, like limiting belief. I never knew how to sell rich people until this one day there was a guard gated hood that was open. So I just went in there and then no one ever like knocked this hood, by the way, because they like never allow solicitors. But I knocked on this door. I met the VP of finance for Centerpoint Energy. He was which we don't have to disclose that, but it was like this big energy that supplies like all of Houston. And so I met the guy that like
was a huge deal. It's probably a massive house, right?
Oh, it was humongous. Probably not the highest contract value that I sold, but I sold him, and then he said his wife takes care of it. So he brought me inside. I sold the wife and signed them up, and I was like, wow, rich people are just like, they're people. We paint this image in our head like rich people are just some different creature, like they have all this money and like this hoard and everything else you paint, but they're people at the end of the day. They're just, the way they think though and the way they operate might be a little bit different, but then again, you just go back to the principle. Like
it's the same thing. And really, like people who are wealthy are just they're better at getting what they want out of life. And people who are not wealthy are not as good at getting what they want out of life, and they therefore work for people who are better at getting what they want out of life. So if you're even just reasonably commanding in your presence and charismatic in a middle class to lower middle class neighborhood or to that type of customer, you can pretty well perform like at a high level, right? But as soon as I go into a wealthy neighborhood, if I'm not as proficient or better than them at commanding presence per my expertise, then there won't be any trust or respect from the get-go, because they're just saying like, who's this kid knocking my door? Who's this person, this amateur person calling me, wasting my time? Well, why? Because like they don't perceive or sense any sort of like care about what I do. Therefore they don't trust me. And they're the ones who are telling people what to do all day, right? Because like that's what made them wealthy, essentially, if you think about it. So they won't ever let you get past this first checkpoint, let alone build rapport with you, let alone let you intrigue them about the idea. And those people value their time way more. And so the moment they not to mention valuing their time, of course.
And
huge.
Sorry, you were saying?
No, sorry. I keep cutting you off.
No, you're good. Going into it, like, there's just different aspects that make up like a different kind of like group and like wealth level. And it's just, you always have to fall back to the principle, like, okay, am I actually in like harmony with this person? And there's probably different ways about going about it. And that's where like the skill can be developed. That's where we teach this, right? And people that are real serious about getting good at this.
The sales skills.
We teach it on a deeper level. But it goes back to like, how can I actually develop that with that person? And it's all a checkpoint. Certain ways that it work on this kind of person, it's probably not going to work on this kind of group.
Yeah, sure.
But that's where you just.
But the principle is the same, that they still need to be. There still needs to be trust. You still need to build rapport or find out what would be a good, as Belfort says, intel gathering. You still have to understand like what it is that they need. That I could then tailor my value set to.
Exactly. And I found that going to like a lot of those wealthy hoods, they have a lot of homes made out of stucco, which is very large homes, and they almost have little to no time to do maintenance. And they, quite honestly, even if they did, they wouldn't want to. So I figured things that matter to them, like what actually mattered to them. And I figured it was things like mud daubers. Like no one wants to get up with a 30-foot pole and like knock everything off.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go and do that if they're busy running a business or something big. So I realized that, and going to like my second summer, that was like a huge selling point, was like mud daubers. Like rich people hated it because it would stick over their house. It would make it look bad. And it was sometimes a nuisance. And so I figured if I could find what they actually need.
That's fantastic too.
And it's made me quite a lot of money from doing that.
That's wonderful. Okay. So let's, sorry to cut you off here. Let's actually pause right here, because would you be willing to do another one of these with me?
Yeah.
And I want to dive into, I'd love to dive in more to these specific aspects of the roadmap. Yeah. But then also like what made it so that in your second summer, from your own psychology, you talked about the shift of the paradigm, but I'd love to learn more about what the actual shift was, where you realized that you didn't have to be bound down by your past beliefs. You didn't have to be a victim to the things that had happened to you before and what conclusions you drew from them. You could actually choose to go perform differently. Yeah. And the reason why I want to know more about this when we talk again is because that's the thing that holds so many people back, especially in sales, as I've watched over and over again. It's like, if you can just undo the chains that are your own belief systems, there's no limit to what you can achieve. And you were a prime example of that. I mean, you 3x'd your revenue performance from one season to the next. It would be like quarter one, I was like, I don't know, you said mediocre, but quarter one, I'm like, bottom 10 on the team or something. And then like quarter two, I'm now like in the top of the entire company.
Top 10 sophomore.
Yeah, you're top 10 sophomore. So, I mean, we had, I don't remember if we had up to 1,000 reps or so at that point, but in the company, I can't quite remember. But I want to know more about what that shift was, like that really made you think like, I don't want to keep being this way. What has to change? And then the things that you did to change it. And maybe we can talk about that more on the next one. Yeah. But are there any final thoughts that you'd like to leave people with that could, I don't know, food for thought, conclusions, gems? Yeah.
I think all of us, if we're really being honest with ourselves, we all hate to lose. But I hated to lose more than a lot of people. And so going after my first summer, I thought that was the most disgusting thing ever. I was mediocre. I'm like, I'm going to sign on again. I'm going to come back and actually figure this thing out.
I can't end like this.
So what I realized is a lot had to change, but it first started with like the belief of like, okay, what's actually driving me? What creates my thoughts, my paradigms, and those things? And it all stemmed from like my belief system. But a lot of that was shaped by not stuff that I actually wanted to really believe or think was true. And so I think a lot of problem that people run into whenever they want to go and level up and do something, they do we have room over here? Yeah. This is like their big belief system that they have. And this is from like past like experiences, childhood, like we could list an array of things that influence belief, but they delegate this all to two groups. And this is very dangerous if like these groups don't have what you're trying to go after, is like family.
Oh, interesting.
And friends. Right. And so the whole time, all the things that I was doing, like college, even extracurriculars, I never understood like why I actually wanted to go do it. I just did it because mom and dad or Jerry friends. Or Ben and Jerry told me to go do so.
Mom, dad, or Ben and Jerry, that's funny.
Yeah. But I never realized like this is actually something I wanted to go do. And so I just took an honest evaluation, like, okay, well, what do I actually believe right now? And is it going to serve like whatever purpose I want to do? And you have to take a lot of time to also sit down, like, what do you actually want? Like, if I could have anything, like, what do I actually want? And I actually learned a lot of that training from you.
Yeah.
But
sounds like a SDP module.
Exactly.
Stating definite purpose.
Yep. And so you do a lot of the planning and you just sit down and ask, okay, well, what do I actually want? Like, what are the things that are the most important to me? And what does that look like 5, 10, 20 years down the future? And you really have to future pace yourself, because so many times most people that are not proactive, they're just caught up in the day to day. They don't really think even that far out. So
yeah, totally.
You have to start with that. And then once you do, you have to really, like, you have to just take this out of the picture. Like, as of course you love your family and friends, but you have to really take it out of the picture and ask, what do you actually want? And then create a plan around that. Of like, not just what you want to get, but like the kind of person you're trying to become. Because
so that your family and your friends aren't dictating that, you're not defaulting to like what they want you to become.
Exactly.
Or some watered down version of it, because typically like your vision's never going to be as strong as theirs for you anyway, unless you have your own.
Yeah.
And you're kind of coming back into yourself and saying, no, but if I could have anything, what would that be? And building you're building the foundation of your beliefs around that, because even still your beliefs haven't changed yet once you decide what you want. Yeah. But now you at least know which beliefs are faulty, right? Like which ones are incorrect maps that are not going to get me to my destination.
That's where you start to adopt the principles,
yeah,
where you do it through everyday commitments. But when you
nice.
Exactly. When you figure out exactly what you want, you realize that most times your family and friends don't have what you want.
Huh.
Like if you were to really ask yourself, would you actually trade places with your friends or family? And most people would say no. And so then how absurd is it that you would take their advice or their validation for something that they don't have? Like they don't have what you're trying to go after.
Huh.
Like none of my friends and family did. Like I love my family. They've done a lot for me. And I love people that I thought were my friends at one point, right? And people, they want you to win until they realize you're going to win more than them.
Yeah,
which is a very
most people.
True principle. But I realized like no one had what I wanted, so I had to figure out what I wanted for myself. And then I went and talked to people. This is the most important part too. I talk to people. I seek advice from people that actually have done what I was trying to go after. People that have done sales to like a high level. People that have made a good amount of money, like an amazing amount of money. People that have belief in systems that actually serve them. Like I was like, what do they do? What do they think? And so
I think it's just also, I'm going to interject for a second. It's important to realize that like, when we say the things I actually want, like, you have to include also like the quality of these people's relationships too, right? Because like you might look at my house and be like, I don't want a house that Aiden has. But if you were to peek into the quality of the relationships that I have, you might like be willing to do anything to have that quality of relationship.
Yeah.
And so also determining what you actually value has to come before what your vision is of the future. Because if you don't understand what you value, then you don't understand the guardrails to stay in between for that vision of the future, which means that it's not a real future, right? Like wealth is only as sustainable as the quality of the relationships that you have over the long, long term. And I would argue that it might not even matter at all, but is it a feature of real like legacy type families that have a lot of good things going on? Yeah. Usually that's one of the things you see, because it's unsustainable to have a legacy type family without a wealth function or something. But you get what I'm saying? Is like like there are things that are, it's important to understand that there are things that are more important than what you see that you would actually want if you sat down and thought about it. You meaning generally you know, anyone.
Yeah. And so having those things of what you want is like, those are important. And I think everyone should have those, but you also have to like go off of what you said. You have to examine the reasons why you're going after those things. And if they're for things that stay bound within like the principles too, right? You have to also incorporate like principles as like a huge catalyst.
Yeah.
If they're within the guardrails of like principles, then that's something that's ethical, and that's something that you should go after if it is for the right reasons. But that's where it takes like usually a very big cross-examination of like why you're going after the thing that you said you want. And most times people realize that when they actually go and get that kind of thing, that's not what they really value at the end of the day. Because you could ask someone like, hey, $10 million sounds cool, but if I told you that you can't wake up, if I give you the $10 million, would you still want it? So it's like, no. It's like, what you
clearly you'd value your day even tomorrow than you would $10 million.
Exactly. So there's a balance of like what you value and what you do. And you have to ask yourself that. And of course, like if these people don't have what you want that it is that you're going after, then seeking their whole, like delegating that blueprint to these people is a very faulty plan. Like that's not going to help you get there. Right.
Interesting. I love that.
I realized my family, as much as I'm grateful for like their sacrifice, I'm after something a lot bigger, something that's going to like try to change my bloodline, something that's very meaningful. And I have different reasons for that. But even like people that I thought were like my friends, none of them really had what I was trying to go after as far as like the person I'm becoming or the things that I was going after. And so I stopped listening to like their opinions of what they thought about what I was doing. And I've just came up with this, like there's a big first creation, which I could go for a very long time. But
oh man, I'd love to actually like, that actually might be a good thing to outline to people on how to do, like if you were to teach me how to do a really quality first creation that actually drove you to achieving something big, like how would you do that?
Yeah. But there's a lot that goes into it. But I had to first figure out, okay, what kind of person do I want to become? What do I want to go do in terms of like long-term and short-term as far as like life achievements? And then what do I want to make in terms of like money? So like goals, like what do I want to sell? What do I want to make? What do I want to generate in terms of revenue? And then around those very big goals and like this vision, you make very strategic commitments around that. So what does it take to like, what do I have to do? And this is like following like a sale checkpoint too, right? It's like you can't.
Dude, you want to know what's crazy? It's if you look really closely, it's exactly the same. So I like, if you remember the standards module and the foundations modules, which you'll see that again in the confidence code.
Yeah.
It's like the selling yourself on the idea. You yourself can be sold on your own future by the same checkpoints that it takes to convince someone else to commit to a product, good, or a service.
And there has to be that conviction. So it follows like, this is the whole aspect of like beginning with the end in mind. And Covey actually talks about it in this book. It's like Habit 2, which if you haven't read it, it's a great book, guys. But there are certain things that if you have this great end goal and like this big vision, you have to do on a daily, weekly basis that doesn't violate. It has to be in accordance with like what you're trying to go after. And so I realized, okay, so certain habits, certain paradigms, certain things have to switch. Otherwise, this great version of what I'm trying to go after is not going to happen.
Right.
And so things about like these are all things issues that I acknowledge at a certain point, but I didn't have the expertise to like exactly figure out how to fix them. So I went to people that have done it before, that I've shattered them, and I've sucked like the best advice from it. And obviously the best way to actually like overcome is to actually like, if your limiting belief is about this person, is to actually go sell that person.
Yeah.
And so
prove yourself wrong.
My second summer, how I shattered every single belief that I had, I believed that I could go and do it. And this wasn't a product of like my family or friends. I just believed I was worthy enough to go get after what I want. So I just did whatever I could to like figure out how to shatter all these different limiting beliefs.
Strategically, sounds like deliberately.
Yeah.
Point by point.
There was a whole thing that I went into, but I spent a lot of time like figuring out what do I got to switch.
Let's dive into it as its own subject matter on another episode, because I think that'd be really valuable for people to see. If you're okay with that.
No, 100%.
I would love to have you back on, dude. This has been phenomenal. How do you feel about? Yeah, this is fantastic. Also, I mean, this is the most time I've spent with you individually on, let alone on any of this.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just took, I mean, it's obvious to me, Kevin, that you're a student of the 7 Habits, and it's obvious to me that you were a student of at least some of the work that I try to distill into sales first principles. And it pays. It not only pays financially, but I'm sure that there's many aspects of your life that are just different, higher quality than you ever expected because of it. Isn't it funny how it just copy and paste to so many different things?
Yeah, into every single thing of your life.
Yeah.
And people act like it's just sales, but it's more than just a sales program.
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought that doing a summer of pest control would make me love my family that much more, to where I valued like spending birthdays with my family, like my mom. Like, take this year, for example, my mom had no idea that I was coming to Texas, and it was her birthday. And so I booked a ticket. And,
let's go.
I flew like just the day in and then went home, and mom's like, what
Good
the heck?
for you, dude.
Like,
well, you start to realize this, as you go through the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, you start to realize like what are your actual priorities in life. And if you don't end up putting the things that are the most important as your actual daily, weekly, yearly priorities, and they just won't ever happen, which means that they don't really exist. Like you might be a son on paper, but you're not really a son to anyone, because you don't do the things that a good son would do, right?
Yeah.
Like I might be a husband on paper. I mean, I could have a pulse and be a living person, but like I might not be anywhere close to maximizing what my human potential is in my relationship with my wife or with my kids.
Yeah.
And it does actually take real work and real actions and real belief systems that are changed in order for me to be the best version of those things.
Of course. And people always value, like, what people do is a direct reflection of what they value. And I'm a firm believer of that.
It's like Jason Walton says that all the time, right? It's like, I know what you value based on what you do. I don't. It doesn't matter what you say, because you'll just show me. Yeah.
People, and we even like to pretend like it's not, but people like watch what they do. Don't watch what they say. People will say all this one thing, and end of the day, like, cool, like, what are you gonna actually go do?
Yeah, exactly.
So
show me.
That was probably one of a big realization. You start to see how people like operate, and like it's just a byproduct of like learning the sales very well at a high level. So
dude, I love it. Let's finish up on this. Kevin Jeong, thank you for joining me, dude. This has been a fantastic little session, brainstorm jam sesh here.